How's it going? Welcome to another Martian Minute. Today we're going to be in Deuteronomy chapter 17. This is a very important part of the Bible, and it's Moses is giving all these instructions to the Hebrews about basically how to be the nation of Israel. And he gives these particular instructions for the day that they would choose a king for themselves. And we're just going to read it starting in verse 16, talking about this future king of Israel. He must not acquire many horses for himself or send the people back to Egypt to acquire many horses. For the Lord has told you, you are never to go back that way again. He must not acquire many wives for himself, so that his heart won't go astray. He must not acquire very large amounts of silver and gold for himself when he is seated on his royal throne. He is to write a copy of this instruction for himself on a scroll in the presence of the Levitical priest. It is to remain with him, and he is to read from it all the days of his life, so that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, to observe all the words of his instruction, and to do these statutes. So it's kind of a bit of an odd instruction for a king, that he's to write this stuff down in the presence of a priest, and it's not very many instructions, but he's supposed to keep it with him all the days of his life and read it every day. And three of the things that he touched on here, when he was talking about the horses, he's really talking about a standing army and pride, okay? And that day when you went to war, you didn't have an army just waiting, for the event that you go to war, a standing army. You would conscript. You would send people out into every town, every village, every city, and they would choose men of fighting age, and they would come to you to fight whatever wars needed to be fought to the defense or the benefit of the nation of Israel for a season, and then they would go back to their homes and their families. So he was telling him, not to keep a standing army, and I believe he's talking about pride, okay? Then he goes on and says he's not to keep many wives. He's talking about lust here. In those days, when one nation made a treaty with another nation, or if they would come to any type of agreement or compact, they would normally seal that with giving a wife or a concubine, typically from the family of one of the leaders for the other leader. And this practice continued unabated till the end of royalty in Western civilization, around the time of the French Revolution, I guess. But he was talking about lust, and Solomon, the third king of Israel, he screwed up right here, okay? I'm just going to tell you that. He had like 600 wives and concubines. I'm just putting that number out there. I didn't research it. And that was his downfall, because he took these wives from foreign nations and he allowed them to continue to worship the gods that they worshiped and to keep the practices and customs that they kept. And then in his older age, he started also participating with them in these heathen practices, okay? Not good. And then he goes on to tell him he's not to enrich himself. He's not to just amass huge amounts of gold and silver for himself. So talking about greed. Okay, now, this is instructions for a king. So how would that apply to me? Well, there's no reason that any of us can't keep a personal list of things for yourself. You don't want it to be too long, because you can't keep track of that. And I actually keep a small little piece of paper. I need to laminate it because, I have to continually make a new one. And I keep it with me. It's just a couple instructions for myself, okay? And, we all battle with different things, different temptations, or we have different downfalls, I guess you could say. But some things, go across the board, like pride, lust, greed. All three of those affect everyone to one extent or another, and has been the downfall of many people, families, and nations, okay? And this king is supposed to, now none of them did it, but they're supposed to keep this on them and read it every day, just some simple instructions, okay? And at the very end, he says, so that he will fear the Lord all the days of his life. I've talked about that 100,000 times, and I'll continue to do it. It's important that we fear the Lord, okay? And this is something Billy Graham did at the beginning of his ministry, because he considered himself a failure as a pastor of a local church. And when he transitioned from being a local pastor to a traveling evangelist, most of us know the results of that. Hundreds of thousands of, maybe even millions of people, came to a relationship in Christ because of the way God used this man and the people around him. And it wasn't just him, it was him and his core group of people. Right at the beginning, they sat down and they made a list of special instructions for themselves, to protect the ministry that they were going into, okay? And, some of what Billy Graham did was real important as far as that list, because one of his instructions was to never be in a room alone with a woman, okay? Now that is somewhat controversial today. Our own vice president actually keeps that rule that Billy Graham had, and I was reading about that recently. That's what got me thinking about this. I can't actually keep that rule in the industry I work in, because at times I'm by myself, and I deal with truck drivers a lot. A lot of them are women, and it's not like I can say, well, I can't, you're going to have to wait till a coworker shows up. I can't do that, okay? But that doesn't mean I can't keep some version of that, to get to the heart of it, I guess. And I'm going to share with you my own personal list that I keep on me, and I would advise you to make your own, and don't put too much on it. I have a rule, I can't change it, but once a year I do a fast. And oh man, I said that, there are probably people out there losing their mind right now, but these videos came out of a fast, okay? All of these videos, that you've been seeing recently, at least this year, are the results of a fast, okay? And that's where the beginning of my list came from, okay? And just a little, I need to laminate it. That would be a smart thing to do. The first one is seek eternal reward, not temporal riches. And what I mean by that is, I have no desire to be wealthy and rich, but we gotta be honest, okay? No nation has ever been as rich as the United States, and I was born in the United States. I'm red, white, and blue all the way through, okay? And I'm just a middle class guy, but I'm greatly blessed, and I think we forget that. Even people who are live in poverty are practically like royalty in many places in this world. We lose track of that, and no matter how well I keep this rule, chances are I'll always be living basically a palatial type life with a house and personal transportation that I own, where I could drive literally from coast to coast if that was my choice. benefits from work, health insurance. I mean, the list can go on and on. Good hospitals. If anything happens to me, within a couple minutes, I could be on a helicopter on my way to I mean, you get the point. We live very, very rich compared to all nations that have preceded us, okay? And so I have no desire to be rich, okay? I'm not saying that, Jesus said, I'll just start with Jesus, okay? Jesus said, it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle, okay? I can't even make a hole that small with a space with my fingers, than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom, to go to heaven, okay? And I'm not going to name names here, but there are some really, really extravagantly rich ministries or ministers out there in this country especially, okay? Ministers who own 7 mansions, fly $60 million private jets, own $11 million houses, have entire airports that they own. There's even one guy who's got $1 billion from love offerings. Okay, I guess that's what we're gonna call it. But I'm not gonna name those names. You can figure it out for yourself. I have a strong that just affects me when I see that extravagant wealth by people who are supposed to be, ministers of the flock. Okay, I'm very uncomfortable with it. That's their business, and I'm gonna keep my distance from it, especially here in these videos. But I don't ever want to be like that. Okay, I'm not saying that I'll ever see wealth like that. I probably won't. But if in the event that it did come, my intention is to get rid of that. Okay, to give it away, or to use it and let ministries work with that. I don't want that. Okay. My second one is never compromise my marriage by deed or rumor. This is basically what I was talking about with the Billy Graham rule, one of his rules. To give you an example, a while back, one of my neighbors who had never come to my house or anything, knocked on my door and she wanted to borrow something. And it was just me and my oldest son. We were the only 2 people at home. So before I could even respond, actually I turned around to see where my son was. I was kind of confused, this person had never come over before. And she walks into my house and sits down on the couch, okay? My wife is not home. This is not a family member or anything, I had to immediately tell her, look, you can't come in here and just sit down. My wife isn't home. And she didn't get it. And she didn't even really respond. I said, look, you have to leave or at least stand outside while we talk about this, okay? And, my next rule, I'll just go ahead and tell you, my next rule is never trust my flesh, because it's connected to these 2. It's not just, the way I worded it was by deed or rumor. It's not just that I think that I would do something. There's also the rumor aspect. I've got other neighbors. What are they looking? What are they seeing? I've always been the type of person, I didn't care what other people think. But now I've come to realize that that's pretty important. That's what this Bible tells me, at least, okay? That what other people are thinking. Because other people think, they're going to think, and they're going to talk. And I can't do nothing about that or stop that. But however, I can live my life with a certain behavior to where I don't do anything that causes the rumors, okay? And so, I'm not going to compromise my marriage with rumors or with deeds. But I also can't trust my flesh. When I became a Christian, I was born again. I was made new. But however, the Bible tells us to to renew our minds. Our mind is flesh, okay? This body was not made new. I still have the same body I had on the day wasn't a Christian, and the next day that I was. It's still the same body. I've been guaranteed a perfected, sinless, not fallen, not cursed body, but it ain't here yet. That's in eternity, okay? So I can't trust this one. This flesh, you know I'm telling the truth, okay? I have thoughts just like you have thoughts. I have temptations just like you have temptations. So I can't trust this flesh, okay? I got to put my faith in God. And then my next one is, when emotional and doubtful, do not speak. Now this one's important, because a lot of times we like to rush and we like to get our opinions out there, especially in social media, okay? And just to demonstrate how important it is to you, I know that there's some people who's watching this. I encourage you to just sit down with a piece of paper and put a line right down the middle and make 2 columns. And on one column, you put you could put encouragement, and on the next column you could put rebuke, because that's my next rule. So I'll just go ahead and tell you: encourage far more than I rebuke. These two go together. So you could just go do what I said, 2 columns, encourage and rebuke, and go on your Facebook or your Instagram or whatever you're using, and read your post that you put. And you only get 2 options. You make a mark in encouragement, or you make a mark in rebuke. Okay, and then you go to the next post, and the next post, and the next post. As many as it takes for you to get the point of the way you're being portrayed out there. Are you encouraging more than you're rebuking? I actually wrote far more, okay? There comes a time to rebuke. There comes a time to correct, okay? There comes a time to do all of those things. But you're called to encourage more than you rebuke. So them 2 are connected as well. Because sometimes when I'm emotional, you know, like in an argument type situation, or just coming upon some issue that for whatever reason affects me, but I'm doubtful. I'm not sure, especially when other people are involved. Of course, when other people are involved, I got some doubt. My best bet, the best thing I could do, is just not say anything, okay, and pray about that, or at least wait a day or 2. You know, maybe a lot of videos that you see on here, I didn't word that right. There's a lot of videos you don't see on here. There's a lot of things you don't read me put on social media, because I deleted it, okay? I either deleted it or before I even posted it, or did it, you know, soon after, because of this rule, okay? Because I'm not sure that it was the right thing. So I'm not, you know, tomorrow's not guaranteed, but I can wait another day, all right? And then my final one is, do not pass up the place of brokenness. I talk about brokenness all the time. But because of sin, everything worth having, it's going to start from a place of brokenness. I promise you. Because sin has cursed everything. Everything is cursed because of sin. Therefore, everything that matters is going to start from a place of brokenness. Look at that cross of Jesus Christ. That's brokenness. That is his body being broken and his blood being shed to make right everything. Everything, okay? And it's no different for us. And a lot of times we want to pass up that brokenness. I've already did plenty of videos on this, so I'm not gonna go all out there because I want to. I do. This is something important. But don't pass up your brokenness. Don't pass up the place of brokenness. Just here's a little homework for you. You can go, I believe it's 1 Samuel. I believe it is. It's in that area. But it's Hannah. Hannah is Samuel, the prophet Samuel's mother, okay? Well, she was barren. She couldn't conceive. And it, wow, man. I done started it. I better go back and read it, okay? Let's see if I can find it quick. Right there. Give me a minute. Here it is, okay? So she can't conceive, okay? And people are ridiculing her about this, can't have any kids. There's people rubbing it in her nose that they got kids and she don't, She's like the laughing stock. It was a big deal. And it still remains a big deal if you can't conceive kids, okay? But listen to in 1 Samuel verse 15, the priest saw her crying and just sobbing, and he thought she was drunk. And he went to rebuke her. And she said, I am a woman with a broken heart. I haven't had any wine or beer. I've been pouring out my heart before the Lord. Don't think of me as a wicked woman. I've been praying for the depth of my anguish and resentment. And this is the moment that everything changed for Hannah, because the Lord opened her womb and she conceived a very important, not just, any child's important to a mother, but this one was exceptionally important to us because it's Samuel, okay? The guy who anointed the first kings of Israel. So it came from a place of brokenness. You want God to respond to you, then get broken. Don't pass up your place of brokenness. So anyway, I'm going to stop. That's my own personal list. I would advise you that if you were going to do something like this, to take it seriously and put some thought and prayer into it first, okay? Don't just put stuff on there and then not keep it. And if it's important to you, then do it. If it's not important, then don't do it, okay?